Imagine a world where the entirety of global commerce rested upon the tension of a few curved planks of wood. Before the era of stainless steel, before the invention of plastic, and long before the first shipping container was ever welded, there was the barrel. It is perhaps the most vital yet underestimated piece of technology in human history. It is a vessel of perfect geometry, capable of withstanding immense internal pressure and the violent tossing of the North Atlantic. Yet it is constructed without a single drop of adhesive or a single permanent nail. In the 14th century, the master of the world was not just the king in his castle or the merchant in his counting house, but the cooper. He was the architect of survival. Today we step back into a world of shadow and oak. We journey to a damp, smoke-filled workshop in medieval England to witness the birth of a masterpiece of pre-industrial engineering. We will watch as Master Thomas, a man whose hands are as scarred and weathered as the timber he shapes, constructs a vessel destined for the dark hold of a ship bound for the edge of the known world. This is not merely a container, it is a blueprint of human ingenuity. This is the lost and grueling art of the cooper. The story of a barrel does not begin with a hammer or a saw. It begins deep within the heart of an ancient forest, long before the sun has even crested the horizon. Master Thomas does not choose his timber lightly. He seeks out the white oak, a tree that has stood silent sentinel for at least 150 years. The white oak is a biological marvel chosen for a specific, hidden reason. Within its grain lie Tyloses, tiny balloon-like outgrowths that effectively plug the natural pores of the wood. This makes the white oak naturally liquid-tight. If the cooper were to mistakenly choose red oak, the barrel would leak through the very pores of the wood like a sieve, and the precious cargo would be lost to the bilge. He looks for a tree that is straight, tall, and free of low branches. It must have grown on high, well-drained ground, where the wood is dense and the growth rings are tight. Every choice made here in the forest determines if a crew of sailors will have fresh water 3 months from now, or if they will perish at sea. Once the giant is felled by the heavy axes of the woodsman, the oak is not sawn into boards. To saw the wood would be to cut across the grain, creating a path for leaks. Instead, Master Thomas must split the wood along its natural medullary rays. Using a tool called a froe and a heavy wooden mallet known as a beetle, he painstakingly cleaves the log into rough planks called staves. This ensures that the structural fibers of the wood remain continuous from one end of the stave to the other. It is a slow backbreaking process that requires an intimate understanding of the tension held within the timber. But these rough staves are not yet ready for the workshop. They must undergo a trial by time. For 2 full years, these planks sit stacked in the open air, exposed to the elements. They endure the biting frosts of winter, the drenching rains of spring, and the scorching heat of the summer sun. This seasoning process is vital. It leaches out the harsh, bitter tannins that would ruin the flavor of wine or ale. More importantly, it allows the wood to find its permanent, stable shape. To use green wood is to invite disaster. As the wood dries, it would shrink, the joints would fail, and the barrel would collapse under its own weight. Before we enter the workshop to witness the first strike of the blade, I invite you to join our journey through the forgotten corners of history. If you find beauty in the manual crafts that built our civilization, please subscribe to Before the Machine and click the notification bell. Your support allows us to keep these ancient stories alive. Now the seasoning is finally complete. Master Thomas brings the seasoned oak staves into his workshop. The air inside is thick with the scent of cured wood, wood smoke, and the metallic tang of iron. The floor is buried deep under a carpet of golden wood shavings. He picks up his first primary tool, the side axe. This is a heavy blade, flat on one side and beveled on the other. With terrifying precision, he hews the edges of the stave. This is the most critical technical step. Each stave must be tapered. It must be wider in the center, which will become the belly of the barrel, and narrower at the ends, known as the chimes. Furthermore, the edges must be cut at a precise angle toward the center of the barrel. He uses no protractors, no complex mathematical formulas, and no laser levels. He relies entirely on his eye and the muscle memory developed over 20 years of daily labor. If his angle is off by even half of a degree, the circle will never close, and the barrel will be useless. Next, Master Thomas moves to his shaving horse. This is a specialized wooden bench that uses a foot-operated clamp to hold the stave in place. He sits astride the horse and picks up the draw knife, a long two-handled blade. He pulls the steel toward his chest, peeling away thin, translucent ribbons of oak. He is hollowing the inside of the stave to create a concave surface and backing the outside to create a convex one. Every movement is rhythmic and deliberate. He is not fighting the wood. He is listening to it. He feels through the handles of the knife for knots, for soft spots, or for any hidden defect that might compromise the integrity of the cask. The thickness of each stave must be perfectly uniform to ensure the tension is distributed evenly around the finished vessel. Once 25 to 30 of these staves are prepared, the raising of the cask begins. This is a moment of pure architectural magic. Master Thomas stands a heavy iron hoop on the floor. One by one, he begins to tuck the narrow ends of the staves into the hoop. They lean outward, splaying like the petals of a giant wooden flower. This formation is known in the trade as the rose. At this stage, the structure is incredibly fragile. It is held together by nothing more than gravity and the downward pressure of the initial hoop. There are massive gaps between the staves at the top, and the wood is stiff and unyielding. Oak is a stubborn material. It does not want to be a circle. It wants to be a straight tree again. To tame the oak, Master Thomas must call upon the elements of fire and water. He builds a small controlled fire in a metal brazier known as a cresset. He places this cresset directly in the center of the rose. As the interior of the staves begins to heat, he periodically splashes water onto the outside of the wood. The combination of intense heat and moisture performs a miracle of organic chemistry. It softens the lignin, the natural polymer that acts as the glue between the wood fibers. The rigid oak becomes plastic. It becomes obedient. This is the most dangerous and delicate part of the entire process. If the fire is too hot, the wood will char, becoming brittle and losing its structural strength. If the fire is too cold, the staves will snap like dry twigs when the pressure is applied. Master Thomas watches the steam rising from the oak with an expert eye. He waits for the exact moment when the wood begins to weep, indicating that the fibers are sufficiently relaxed. As the wood reaches its peak flexibility, Master Thomas loops a thick, heavy hemp rope around the splayed tops of the staves. This rope is attached to a windlass, a massive wooden winch bolted to the floor. With a deep groan of complaining timber, he begins to turn the handle. The rope tightens with immense force. The staves, which were once straight planks from a forest giant, are now forced into a dramatic curve. The workshop is filled with the sound of the wood screaming and moaning under the strain. Slowly, the wide gaps disappear. The rose closes. The staves are crushed against one another with hundreds of pounds of lateral force. While the wood is still hot and compliant, he drives a second heavy iron hoop down over the top to lock the shape in place. The skeleton of the barrel is now complete. It is a moment of profound tension, both in the wood and in the room. We are now at the midpoint of a process that has remained virtually unchanged for over 1,000 years. If you are marveling at the sheer physical strength and precision required for this craft, please take a moment to like this video. It helps our channel reach more people who appreciate the history of manual labor. The barrel is now a solid hollow cylinder, but it is still open at both ends. It requires a floor and a lid, which the cooper refers to as the heads. You cannot simply nail a circle of wood to the ends of the staves. The pressure of the liquid inside would blow it out instantly. Instead, Master Thomas must create a mechanical seal using geometry alone. He picks up a tool called a croze. This is a specialized plane with a small, sharp cutting tooth. He runs the croze around the inside rim of the barrel, cutting a deep, square groove into the staves. This groove must be perfectly level and cut to a precise depth. It is the track into which the heads will eventually slide. The heads themselves are constructed from several flat pieces of oak, joined together with small wooden dowels or pins. To ensure they are absolutely liquid tight, Master Thomas uses a technique known as flagging. He places a single strip of dried river reed, called a flag, between each joint of the head. This reed acts as a natural gasket. When the barrel is filled with liquid, the reed swells, sealing any microscopic gaps between the boards. He then uses a large wooden compass to scribe a perfect circle onto the assembled wood and cuts it out with a fine-toothed bow saw. He then uses a heading knife to bevel the edges of the circle so they fit snugly into the crow's groove. Now comes the final high-stakes assembly. Master Thomas must loosen the end hoops just enough to allow the staves to flare outward by a fraction of an inch. He carefully slides the circular head into the groove. It is an incredibly tight fit. As he hammers the heavy hoops back down into place, the staves clamp onto the head with such immense force that the head becomes an inseparable part of the barrel's structure. There is no glue. There are no screws. There is only the overwhelming power of tension and compression. He repeats this entire sequence for the other end of the barrel, leaving only a small circular hole, the bunghole, through which the vessel will be filled. In the 14th century, iron was a precious and expensive commodity. It was also prone to rapid rusting when exposed to the salt spray of the ocean. For many barrels, Master Thomas would not use iron hoops, but hoops made of hazel or willow wood. These wooden hoops were soaked in water until they were as flexible as leather, then wrapped around the barrel and tucked under themselves in a clever, self-locking notch. A well-crafted wooden hoop could last for many years, and they were far easier for a ship's carpenter to repair in the middle of a voyage than iron ones. The final stage is the ultimate test of the cooper's skill. Master Thomas fills the completed barrel with water or pressurized air. This is the moment of truth. If he has miscalculated the angle of even one single stave by the thickness of a hair, a bead of moisture will appear. If he has cut the crow's groove too shallow or too deep, the head will pop out under the weight of the cargo. He stands back, wiping the sweat and soot from his brow, and watches. The wood begins to swell as it absorbs the water. The joints tighten. The barrel remains bone dry on the outside. It is a perfect vessel. He takes his branding iron, heated to a glowing red in the same fire that bent the staves, and presses his unique mark into the wood of the head. This mark is more than just a label. It is his signature and his bond of quality. If this barrel were to fail in the hold of a ship in the middle of the Atlantic, his reputation would be ruined, and a merchant might lose a fortune. If it holds, it will carry wine to the table of a king, or perhaps more importantly, fresh water to a crew of desperate explorers who have not seen land in 40 days. As we look at the finished barrel, we must realize the sheer amount of stored energy it contains. The tension in the bent staves is a physical force, held in check only by the strength of the hoops. This internal tension is exactly what makes the barrel so resilient. You can drop a fully loaded barrel of wine, weighing several hundred pounds, from a height of 6 feet, and it will often bounce without breaking. If you were to do the same with a square wooden crate, it would shatter into 1,000 splinters. The barrel is the only heavy load container that can be easily rolled by a single man, pivoted on its curved belly, and stacked 4 levels high without the bottom layer collapsing. It was the perfect technology for a world on the move. In our modern world of plastic, aluminum, and disposable packaging, we have lost our connection to this level of permanence and craftsmanship. A well-made medieval barrel could be used for 20 years to transport wine, then another 10 years to hold salted meat or fish, and finally, when it could no longer hold liquid, it would be broken down. The staves would be used to make a smaller cask, and the remaining scraps would be burned to heat the next cooper's workshop. Nothing was ever wasted. Every shaving of oak on Master Thomas's floor will eventually find its way into the cresset fire. The next time you see a wooden barrel, do not look at it as a simple rustic decoration or a relic of the past. See it for what it truly is, a masterpiece of physics. See the white oak of a century-old forest, see the fire, the steam, and the iron that bent the impossible. Most of all, see the calloused and powerful hands of the cooper, who, without the aid of a single machine, built the vessels that carried the weight of human history across the world. Thank you for traveling back in time with us today. The machine age has provided us with many comforts, but it has cost us the intimate, tactile knowledge of the materials that shape our lives. If you want to help us keep these memories and techniques alive, please subscribe to Before the Machine and share this video with others. What other ancient craft or lost process should we explore next? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious, and never forget the world that existed before the machine.